Okay, so in this video, guys, we are going to cover a few different things. 1. Never trust critic reviews. 2. This is going to be Pokemon versus Digimon, so let's get to it. They're two decent RPGs, but they have nearly identical critic ratings, but slightly different user reviews and reactions. On Metacritic, Pokémon Legends Z-A has a Metacritic score of 80, but the user score is only 4.6 out of 10 by the users, and it's absolutely horrendous. By contrast, Digimon Story Time Strangers has a Metacritic score of 79 and a user score of 9.3 out of 10. In other words, critics rated Pokemon higher than Digimon, but players love Digimon way more. So, Pokemon Z-A, critics 80 out of 100, users 4.6 out of 10. Digimon Story Time Strangers, critics 79 out of 100, users 9.3 out of 10. Absolutely massive difference in terms of the user scores. And critics, you just don't trust the critics, right? On Metacritic, these user scores carry labels that highlight a very big contrast between the Pokemon's 4.6 and it's in terms of Metacritic is actually generally labeled as generally unfavorable, while Digimon's 9.3 is actually labeled as universally acclaimed. That gap is absolutely critical because the two pair of games has the absolute opposite user scores, and it's ridiculous, right? Looking closer, the critics breakdown are very similar to both games. 59 critic reviews. Each Pokemon had 78% positive and 22% mixed and 0 negative. And Digimon had 80% positive, 20% mixed and 0 negative. In other words, the critics largely liked both games, yet the user breakdowns are completely flipped. Pokemon Legends Z-A, 37% of users gave it a positive review, 7% gave it mixed, and 56% gave Pokemon Z-A negative reviews. Okay, this is on Metacritic. Digimon Story Time Strangers, 95% of users gave positive reviews, 2% mixed, and only 3% negative. In Pokemon's case, a majority of real players disliked the game, 566 versus 866 negative, right? Bringing the average down to 4.6 out of 10 for Pokemon Z-A. For Digimon, nearly all players absolutely loved it, 491 positive versus 16 negative, yielding a 9.3 out of 10 average. These figures come directly from the official Metacritic pages for each game, and their underscore the divide. The critics and fans saw these games very differently, right? They saw them absolutely. The fans are the ones you want to go for. This is why you don't trust critics, mate. The examples highlight a key point. Critic scores and user scores measure different things. Professional reviews often focus on graphics, performance, and innovation, and how the game fits the industry trends. They may play a game once for a few hours under a review condition. By contrast, user reviews reflect the experience of the actual player, often fans of the series who may care about the story, nostalgia, game length, and wherever the game met their personal expectations. In practice, this can lead to big gaps. In our example, critics found both games to be solid, but that's not a 79 out of 80 Metascore. That's just them trying to keep face, right? Perhaps impressed by the polish or new mechanics. However, Digimon players eventually felt that Time Strangers delivered on everything they ever wanted: story, depth, fan service, hence the 9.3 user score on Metacritic. Pokemon fans apparently felt that Pokemon Legends Z-A fell short in key ways: story, depth, open world content, etc. And it's fueled the flood of negative reviews on Metacritic.com. Noticeably, many online comments echoed disappointment about missing content, technical issues, explaining why 50% rated it negatively, right? Another factor is the selected bias. Users who take the time to post a review are often those who have very strong feelings, especially negative ones. In a vocal group of fans is dissatisfied, a game can get review bombed, right? Drastically lowering the user score. Pokemon Legends Z-A 4.6 likely reflects a large group of unhappy players, but they're unhappy for a good reason, right? Digimon, on the other hand, had so few discouraged players that negative votes are virtually non-existent. Okay, so you got 16 negative reviews out of 518 positive reviews with Digimon. Importantly, critics operate under different pressures. Some gamers suspect that the big publishers like Nintendo have cozy relationships with the media, providing early review copies and special privileges, etc., to keep the critics happy to get their nice big scores on their reviews, which might unconsciously influence the reviewers. For instance, Nintendo is known for giving press early access and generous embargo windows, meaning critics have ample time and may feel goodwill towards such support. While it's hard to prove bias, the perception exists. Game industry writers themselves claim that outright brought reviews are rare, but they admit even unconscious things like embargo timings can give some sites an advantage in terms of views, right? Because they can get a full review out on the release day, and some people are only just getting the game, right? That's why critic reviews should never be trusted. Wherever you believe this or not, critics are paid off. The fact remains that they rarely slated either game, and wherever players blew off steam in their own scores, right? For a content standpoint, the huge user score gap suggests difference in the quality of experience and fan expectations. Critics apparently saw both games as competent RPGs. However, fans clearly weighed elements differently. Many Digimon fans praised Time Story, and obviously the game is amazing, right? The variety of Digimon, nostalgia, as reflected by its must-play review and commentary and community excitement. Pokemon fans, by contrast, were massively disappointed by Legends Z-A story and open world. The points that may be the reason why, you know, it got review bombed, if it did get review bombed. That's what people are saying. Honestly, I don't know. I think the game's just not that good. But anyway, that's my opinion. But are they deal breakers for long-time players? This is the problem. Some critics even note that Pokemon's flaws, see a mixed critic score like 70 from Game Reactor, but it's still favorable, right? It's still above the 70 is still favorable, 7 out of 10. In short, the actual gameplay experience may swing users' scores dramatically. Independent and technical polished Digimon, high user ratings implies that it delivers fun and value to the players, even if the critics saw only a solid 79. Pokemon's low rating implies that fans felt let down, despite the critics' 80 out of 100. That tells us that game enjoyment is subjective, and user reviews often capture the opinions better, right? So all this leads to the video's main point. This video's main point is never trust critic scores over user scores. The data shows that a critic-based metascore can miss what real players care about. In example, critics essentially rated Pokémon Legends Z-A and Digimon Story Time Strangers equally well, but players felt the absolute opposite. Relying on that, the 80 versus 79 critical score is incredibly misleading. You should think both games are equally good. Look at the user scores, and it's actually a 4.6 versus 9.3, revealing that the truth that the players are satisfied with Digimon over double the amount, or basically double the amount as they are with Pokemon. Going forward, it's wise to use both sources, but if critic and user diverges hugely like this, give more weight to the user score. Always give more weight to the user's reviews and the actual player's reviews. They're one of the actual they're the people who are buying the game and playing the game for their own benefit, not for some job, right? A very low score like 4.6 with over 1,500 votes is a strong red flag, okay? Even if the critic metascore is high, controversially, the stellar user score 9.3 in Digimon with a 95 positive votes suggests that the game is fun even if the critics weren't blown away. Ultimately, you should trust a fellow gamer. User reviews reflect the real gaming experience, and the Pokemon versus Digimon case, the users have made it clear which game delivers more promise and a lesson in why critics' scores alone should never be trusted. Okay, this is basically my own opinion that I put into words as such, and honestly, this is just like, if you are on the fence between Pokemon and Digimon, Honestly, listen to the user reviews. Go Digimon. Always go Digimon. And honestly, you can try Pokemon 8, but honestly, I would wait for a sale because you are wasting your money, dude. Just go Digimon. You're gonna have such a better time. Anyway, what do you think? Am I right? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.